Well, hello and welcome. Ruth's disturbed, saying, I wish I was a Victorian. It's not every day that you actually hear that spoken. But welcome, everyone. I'm sorry I'm early, but I have to go to work. I'm back at work tomorrow. We've had about 5 weeks off because we've had school holidays and COVID. So I've got to get back into it. So I've got an early start. So I thought if I finished early, we would finish early. So I trust that you are all well. You're all doing well today. So we've got a lot again. We just have lots and lots to talk about tonight. Yes, Todd Chrisley stated on the podcast that Without a Crystal Ball was served. Some documentation. That documentation I've not seen yet. That has not been. From what I understand, it's not available on Pace. It wasn't available on Pacey as yet, which is the court system in the US. So as soon as those documents drop, if they drop while we're on stream, I'll show them. So we've got Todd Chrisley on his podcast. We've got an interview with Friendlyjordies, which was very good. We want to discuss about whether we can sack the government. And which government? Should the government? Should you be able to sack the government if they're not up to scratch? Because that's the question that's been asked at the moment. That's a big topic of conversation at the moment. So we want to discuss all of that. So I understand that I did change the time again. I've come early. I tend to go early if I'm going to do anything because I'm sitting here and I'm bored. You have to find Scotty to sack him, says Rufus Disturbed. Well, he'd be in New South Wales, wouldn't he? Looking after, because he's the Prime Minister of New South Wales, isn't he? Hello, the fox. Let's hope Todd can do what Toddy didn't. Wow, he's not messing around. Now, what's interesting is that somebody did note that all the videos that Katie Joy had done on Todd Chrisley had been privated. Her Twitter again went down for a little bit, and she's probably gone on a big delete spree. And I don't know whether you've heard that podcast, but there was something very telling in that. And I have got a theory that he's using Katie Joy to get to Lindsay, but that's just my theory. Just like Tardy used Katie Joy to get to Swanson, it might be another case of those. So I don't want to get hopes up too high. It was just based on what he said, but I got no idea. He's more transparent than the Invisible Man. Oh, he's hard to find. Where's Scotty? Has he gone for a drive? Where's Scotty? He's the Invisible Man, all right. Definitely. Oh, and of course the Aussie athletes are now in quarantine, the athletic squad, thanks to an American. I don't know if they were all being separated, how they've got it from an American, but who knows? I haven't been able to get to the bottom of that story yet. So I went and saw the ear doctor today, and apparently there was something that was had fixed itself to the ear canal that had to be removed, and some high pressure stuff. And it had lodged itself right on the thing of the eardrum. Boy, it hurt. Half of the Americans, well, that's the other thing. Half of the Americans are vaccinated. So anyway. So I now at least can hear, and I had a shower and I didn't have the water stuck in my ear. So that's a good sign. So now I just have to go back and have a hearing test to make sure my hearing hasn't been affected, and another follow-up, because I still have a little bit of buzzing in my ear, but he seems to think that will go away, hopefully. So and we'll have more people come in. So just bear in mind that everyone and everybody that comes in, particularly, they still need. Yeah, they just want to. He just wants to make sure that it was that thing, because he said to me, "Has the buzzing gone?" And I said, "No." And I said, "Oh," and he said, "It may take a few days." The Aussie pole vaulter was a close contact of an American. Oh, okay. I got my ears flushed a few years ago. Had wax build up the size of a pea. Yeah, well, one ear had wax. The other one, he just said it wasn't wax. It was just something else. But thought it was because I'd had an ear infection. It was just maybe something, a bug or something that got in there. I don't know. Didn't know. Don't care. But apparently, GPs don't do a lot of that anymore. That's why you got to go see ENTs. They charge the bigger bucks. So anyway, yeah, not good since you're a sound engineer, right? I'm hoping to be able to hear a lot better now. I'm doing recording this semester in my final semester for university, and I just had a look at my help debt, and I won't be able to do any further study next year because I'm going to be at my limit, which I'm really sad about. I didn't think music was that expensive. Of course, because they've lowered the amount. So anyway, and my internet's stupid again. So I feel dizzy but great after. I think, yeah. My internet is going to play this game all night, I think. Okay, so here's a question for you. If well, Robin, we'll find out. We're about to find out. Hey, at least if I improve, I can say it was my ears. Hi, Mr. Obvious. So here's the question for you. If your government is not performing, should you be able to sack them? I mean, we did have a Prime Minister in Australia that was sacked by the government. Didn't let me know. I did start early, Mr. Obvious, so it's not your fault. I started early. Aha, nice. Well, I mean, people have said that Gough Whitlam was sacked for far less. Well, we do have the Governor. I mean, the Governor General did sack Whitlam. I don't know. I wasn't old enough to know what he got sacked for. All I know, he got sacked. And according to my father, it was the biggest mistake ever made. My father said Gough was the best Prime Minister we'd ever had. California recalled their governor, says Physics Down Under. I would sack them all immediately. Wow. Okay. Oh, sorry, I just was looking at this. All right, Mr. I had this sent to me. This is an interview with our treasurer, which bothers me, but I'm having to laugh. He's got 379 subscribers, the treasurer. I've just been reading the comments. We hate you. Your days are counted. Bring on the election. Well, it looks like Friday might be voted out. I don't know. Why would you upload this to your own channel? This is like free advertising for Labor. Bet that hurt Josh. How much does Harvey Norman get? What else have we got here? The comments are just hilarious. Yeah. So we're going to watch this interview with the Treasury and look, it's 4 likes, 3 dislikes. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. Hello, Andrew. was a constitutional travelling mechanism for postponing an election. As much as I would like Scotty to go and never come back. Yeah. Well, didn't Turnbull do the double dissolution election? That was, he called the bluff. Didn't we have the double dissolution election? But see, Morrison knows that if he called it, he'd go. Sleep with one eye open. All right, so here we go. So we're going to have a look at this interview. I haven't watched it. We're going to see it together. And let's hear what the Australian Treasurer has to say.
Josh Frydenberg.
Oops, sorry.
Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, welcome.
Nice to be with you, Patricia.
You've today increased the emergency payment level to $750 a week. That is the same amount as JobKeeper was last year. Will you now concede that dumping JobKeeper was a mistake?
Let me answer that. We're idiots. For Frydenberg's appealing reactions. Oh, really? Okay, gold standard. I'm already answering these questions for you. Yes, it was a mistake. In fact, we should have put unemployment up to make it at least just lower that at the minimum wage so that people that lost their jobs are able to survive.
Ending JobKeeper when we did was the right decision. JobKeeper did its job. More than 3.8 million people were supported by that program, the most expensive wage support program in Australia's history at a cost of around 90.
Of course, they waited till Victoria came back to work. Exactly the fox. Waited till South Australia and Victoria came out of lockdown. You know what I would have done if I was Dan? I would have said, "Oh, I've called Morrison's bluff. We're going back into lockdown." No, he wouldn't do that. But because I don't think that you should be playing politics. The federal government are obviously playing politics. I mean, I'm actually really embarrassed that says that he's in Melbourne because
$1 billion, but the advice from Treasury was that if we had continued it beyond the March quarter, it would have been distorting the labour market. Indeed, we saw unemployment fall following the end of JobKeeper, and at that time it was costing more than $2 billion a month. So it was the right economic decision.
Well, my brother was one of those sacked workers. My brother was one of those sacked workers that worked for Qantas. He was a baggage handler. And, so $7 million went to Qantas. In fact, now, didn't I see that over $90 million went to companies that recorded a profit? That's a waste of money.
For the country, and allowed our labour market to find its right equilibrium.
Treasurer, your own budget told you that we would have lockdowns this year. You knew it was in your budget papers, and yet you didn't design emergency payments until Victoria took you kicking and screaming to do it. Will you apologise for not actually planning for this earlier?
Well, I think the assumption of your question is wrong.
Sorry. Oh. Hey, I was part of RoboDebt. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't laugh at him.
Because what we did do in the budget is we assigned more than $40 billion in extra COVID economic support. We moved to a different phase of our economic response plan. Now, we had assumed that there would be further lockdowns, shorter lockdown, what we're now seeing.
Shorter lockdowns? What? New South Wales has just gone into 6 weeks. New South Wales is having the longest lockdown of the year. Hello, Angela. Just for all of those that have come in, this is the Australian Treasurer. I would like to say it's a comedy, but unfortunately he's serious. This is why Australia is stuffed.
In New South Wales, as the situation has evolved, so has our response. And as you know, we've announced today a very significant boost to both household support as well as business support in partnership with both the New South Wales government and the Victorian government, and this will provide welcome relief to businesses and families right in those two major states.
Oh, he's having trouble spitting that out, isn't he? Having trouble spitting that out. Doesn't want to open his wallet, does he? I know New South Wales is in dire straits, and then Gladys says we've got the most strictest lockdown in the country. I guess she didn't know that Victoria had curfews. Was it 5 o'clock or was it 7 o'clock curfews? Or was it 5 o'clock? We all had to be tucked up in our houses. We had curfews.
But why did you wait until South Australia and Victoria were no longer?
Oh, she's on point.
We're in lockdown to increase these payments. I mean, they will be backdated to this higher amount if any lockdown happens from day one. So effectively, Victorians just went through a 2-week lockdown, their 5th lockdown. They didn't get this level of payment. I mean, people are probably watching in Melbourne now thinking, why didn't a higher payment?
Well, the good news for the people of Victoria has been that our income support payments started from day one of their lockdown.
But they got the lesser amount. They got the $600. They never got this $750.
And today's announcement came as a result of New South Wales extending its lockdown.
Oh, dear me. Talk about skirting the question. We had a curfew last time, 8:30 time bedtime rules. Like, yeah, I can't remember when I think ours was like 7 o'clock or something. I can't remember. There won't be many. There's not many. Particularly on my side of town. I'm in the western suburbs, the blue collar area. It's very much a Labor seat. Actually, I heard something today that the state Liberal leader is going to have a leadership challenge, but what's saving him at the moment is that Parliament's not meeting face to face at the moment due to COVID. So he's actually being saved. COVID's actually saving him from being rolled
for another 4 weeks. This is a very lengthy lockdown, not too dissimilar to what Victoria went through last year. But when Victoria went through that lockdown last year, there was the JobKeeper program in place. We now have a more targeted, faster system of payments that are going out the door.
O'Brien. O'Brien. I've taught that to Harrison. So whenever you talk about Michael O'Brien, he'll sing the O'Brien song. O'Brien and Dim Tim. The other prediction is that the Victorian LNP is going to go the same way as the WA LNP and get decimated. And they're predicting that that's going to happen federally in Victoria because we're not very happy with people like Frydenberg. They reckon his seat's going to go.
And you've heard from a range of commentators and economists that the measures that we have now in place are delivering the necessary support that people need. For example, in relation to the income support for households, it's going out the door in some cases 40 minutes after the application.
Yeah, which is welcome.
Paid online, and around a million. Claims have already been processed.
Just want to get in just to get to the reason you just cited. You said we made this announcement because New South Wales, Greater Sydney is extending its lockdown by 4 weeks. But in fact, this $750 will apply from day dot for any lockdown. So I know how to add. I was okay at maths. That means that Victorians and South Australians missed out. That's the fact. It doesn't kick in for longer lockdowns. It's from day one.
Well, we have both income support and...
Oh, look at that backpedaling. He cannot. She's just right. She's running over him. He has no answer for her. Waffle, 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 waffle.
Business support. Obviously, the need is going to be significant in New South Wales with this longer lockdown, and the impact that it has on both household and business balance sheets are very significant. At the same time, we recognise that there may be further lockdowns in other states. So this increased income support is welcome, and also significantly today we've announced business support, where the previous turnover threshold for businesses to receive this support has been up to $50 million. It's now going to be up to $250 million.
Oh, so we're going to help our mates again. He's not taking the sass from her. Who does she think she is, asking questions that make him foolish? Well, that's right. He's not happy, is he? How dare she? How dare a woman talk down to me?
And the maximum payment per week to businesses was $10,000. It's now going to be up to $100,000 a week, and the expectation is that hundreds of thousands of employees and businesses will get to benefit.
Okay, but you get what I'm really trying to get at, which is that there appears to be a double standard.
Of course there is. Don't forget, he's from Victoria. You would think he would be advocating for his state to get a good deal.
That people in those other states didn't get the same level of payments.
Well, the reality is we now have a new set of payments that we've announced today.
The reality is we have a new set of payments. Can you Americans see what our treasurer? Can you see this?
People would feel disappointed.
And the business side.
Absolutely. Good that you've done it. I think my point is, isn't it too late?
Yes. Too little, too late. Too little, too late.
It's certainly providing necessary support for some tough weeks ahead.
But not
Is she?
the Victorians or South Australians last week.
Well, let me just tell you what we've announced today for the people of Victoria. That is a combination with the Victorian government to put together on a 50-50 basis a $400 million fund for small and medium-sized businesses who have been impacted by the lockdown and indeed by the continued restrictions that are in place. Their support in some cases could be grants of up to $20,000 for these businesses, whether it's a cafe or a catering business, a restaurant or a hairdresser or a gym. These businesses are in line for support that's coming provided jointly by the Victorian and the federal government. It's a sign of a renewed economic partnership because our focus is on helping both Victorians and the people in New South Wales get through.
So let me read between the lines.
Are
you trying to repair your relationship with the Victorian government that you were personally
She's right she's hitting the nail on the head.
Come on, it didn't look like a nice relationship to me.
Oh, look, there's been some choice words on...
I've heard that ScoMo's trying to throw Gladys under the bus now. Oh, Senate estimates have been going, and she's been giving them I tell you now, if Penny Wong was able to be Prime Minister, Labor would get in on a landslide. Hi, Will. Oh, really? Your politicians are arguing over masks, and all the Liberals are a disaster. Oh, really? They're still trying to sort that out? Wow. Our government's just, our federal government's just backflipping at the moment.
From both sides,
including you,
of recent weeks, and indeed in recent months. Sure, I've made some pointed comments, and so have they. But my heart is with the people of Victoria.
Yeah, right. The vaccinated ones, we have to wear masks too. We have to wear masks whether we're vaccinated or not. At the moment, masks are mandatory where I live.
As it indeed is with all Australians. My job as the national, the federal treasurer is to deliver a stronger economy. What we did see before the most recent lockdowns was unemployment falling to a 10-year low, and that was welcome. We'd seen Australia's economy bigger today than it was going into the pandemic. We did that ahead of any other advanced economy. But the reality of the COVID pandemic and the Delta variant is that you need to prepare for these new...
Which you knew were coming and you did nothing about, and you sat on your hands until it was too late.
Contingencies and the new events as they arise.
All right.
That's what we've done with these economic support payments.
You compared yourself in this interview last year's lockdown in Victoria, the long one that we can't forget, with what's happening in New South Wales. You said that last year's lockdown was, and I wrote it down, the biggest public policy failure by a state government.
You hate that? I know, it's very hard. It is very hard, Kino. I agree with you. It's frustrating. I'd like to actually... He's in my state. I would like to go and have words with him, actually.
In living memory. Is that now rivaled by what New South Wales is doing? Is that now the new biggest public policy failure by a state government?
Well, look, if you want to relitigate the past, the facts are there.
I feel the past in my body because I went through that lockdown. So I ask a very pertinent question. Is this the new public policy failure?
Well, the first thing to say is obviously more than 800 people tragically lost their lives.
We're gonna go that way now. You might get the fixated persons. I might do. We have to get onto... She is good, Kino. She is, isn't she? She is good. I know, the politicians really... doing my... it's like watching Katie Joy, actually. It's about as frustrating as that. Who is the journalist and is she single? It's Patricia Carvallis. I don't know whether she's single or not.
Victoria, and as you know, in Victoria, Patricia, we've gone through more than 200 days of lockdown.
Yes, Josh. However, the deaths occurred in facilities that your government was actually responsible for. Your government did not mandate certain things in their care facilities. So don't you start that with me. Oh, dear. Don't you start on me.
More than any other state. With respect to New South Wales's lockdown, what you did see early on in the crisis was, and early on in the spread of the Delta virus in that state, is you saw limo drivers who shouldn't have been carrying around aviation workers, indeed without a mask, and that is how the virus started to spread.
Yes, and a public relations disaster.
That's the biggest public policy failure, given what it's led to. I mean, look how much money you have to spend today to try and rescue this struggling state because they took too long to lock down and realise what had happened.
And what is welcome is that they've acknowledged that mistake. They've changed the and hopefully there will not be a
I'm joking. They've acknowledged their mistake. Really? I'm sorry to the people of New South Wales. Rufus is in New South Wales says no, they have not. He does make KJ look like a saint. He really does. And they're not going to let the mistake happen again. How can anyone in this guy's electorate look at him and go, I want him to represent me? If he was my local member, I'd be so embarrassed at the moment. I'm actually embarrassed. He's from my state. I want him banished. Let's send him to New South Wales. I don't want him. Go back. Exactly, Andrew. If you acknowledge it, isn't it a public public policy failure? Correct. He reminds me, him and Katie Joy go really well together.
The reality is, you need to lock down fast when you get the outbreak of the Delta variant.
Yes, which Victoria had already done. Lockdown hard and like fast and hard. It's a Muppet show.
Victoria has done that. We welcomed it, and today Victorians have started to see the easing of restrictions and the opening up. Unfortunately, New South Wales has still got a hard road ahead.
Did he just say a compliment about Victoria? Why is his head not exploding? Oh dear.
Yeah, and we don't want them to. This is the thing. We don't want people to be struggling like this. So is now the Victorian standard the new gold standard?
Well, Victoria's had a pretty tough time during the pandemic.
I mean, currently,
just sharing
the standard.
view.
No, not at all. I don't enjoy this pandemic at all. But I'm talking about reacting to circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I think that in Victoria they have.
Hello, Tracy. He can't bring himself to say it, can he? So, Tracy, this is the Australian treasurer who would give Katie Joy a run for money. He can't bring himself to say it.
Effectively in the most recent lockdown.
Actually, you know what? He would have actually been wise to say that South Australia went down fast and hard as well. He could have acknowledged that Victoria and South Australia. Yes, I don't enjoy this pandemic. But nailing you to a post on live television is certainly a fine consolation prize. Oh, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I like it. I think it's clear to say he's gone next election. Bye-bye, Joshy.
Down. And I do think the same applies in South Australia. In both cases, there was a relatively small number of Delta variant related cases. The health authorities got on top of them, and now we've started to see the restrictions eased. In New South Wales case, they didn't move as fast as the other states.
Oh, he just admitted. You say it best when you say nothing at all. Bye, Josh. Oh, as I said, I'm glad he's not. I'm glad he's not part of my not my electric, because I tell you what, he'd be getting an email from me.
Had early on the virus spread, and now they're going to spend more time in lockdown as a result.
Yeah, and that lesson could have been learned by looking at their southern neighbours, southern cousins, us.
Well, the Prime Minister did refer to the pandemic as the vaccination as an Olympic race. So we're all trying to go for gold, apparently, into the Prime Minister.
We're both Victorians, Treasurer, and why would anyone want to do that twice? Do what we did.
Not twice, 5 times.
Oh.
I'm talking about the length, which was the punishing element of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, nobody wants to go through lockdowns, and that's why the vaccinations are going to be so important going forward. And what is pleasing is that yesterday nearly 200,000 jabs were delivered. As you know, we're delivering now more than 1 million a week. More supplies are coming online, and the only way to make lockdowns a thing of the past is to get more people vaccinated, and that's where our focus is.
Okay, the economy is forecast to contract in the September quarter.
Oh, what happened? Just stopped. Oh, why did that just change? That just moved on me. That just changed. Obviously Ralph had enough of him as well. Ralph had said, I've had enough. You're moving on. Hello, Julianne. Welcome to the Side Circus, which is we've got the pre-show
with some concern over the potential of a recession too. So I just want to get your view on this. Should we be prepared for a recession?
Yes.
Well, the first thing to say is we don't know what's around the corner.
Oh, that is your job, Treasurer. That is your job, Treasurer, to plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Australia's up the creek without a paddle.
With respect to COVID and seeing our two biggest states in lockdown over the quarter is going to have a significant economic impact. So I won't be surprised if the September quarter comes in negative. The definition of recession is when you have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And that is something we'll obviously do our best to avoid. And the quickest way to avoid that, and the most effective way to avoid that, is to see New South Wales get on top of this.
I'm almost tempted to put my hand up as an independent and go and run against him. He's not a very clever. It sounds confrontational, but it's easy to bat away, as he will now. Hello, Lloyd. But we should be prepared for a recession. We're in one now, aren't we? We were in one before COVID hit.
Outbreak and to come out of lockdown. So that's why our economic supports have been put in place to help businesses, to replace some of the lost economic activity, to cushion the blow for families who have been impacted, and to do everything we can on the health side to encourage people to follow the health advice, to stay indoors other than for those prescribed reasons, and to try to get on top of this virus as quickly as possible.
The Prime Minister has likened the vaccine take-up to a gold medal run at the Olympics. So let's settle this. Is it a race? Is getting vaccinated a race after all?
So yeah, it's not a smart way to put the as the Titanic as the Titanic is sinking, Josh is saying our plan is to avoid the icebergs. Hello, Kim. So we're just watching an interview with the Australian Treasurer as our prelude to Katie Joy later.
I firmly believe that the quicker we get people vaccinated, the faster we get out of this crisis.
So it is a race.
And you can, well, from here on, we're going to do it as quickly as possible.
But you didn't order enough vaccines, mate. You need vaccines.
There's no doubt about that. Look, the pandemic has now been with us for more than 15 months. On both the health and the economic front, Australia has done extremely well. If we'd had a loss of life in this country equivalent to the average across the OECD, we would have lost more than 30,000 lives. Fortunately, that number is today below 1,000.
Oh, one loss of life is one too many. Like, don't let the plague ship into the most popular flight. Oh, COVID's a great excuse for everything. COVID's the excuse for everything. How to sound strong or being weak. In America, the CDC is saying, well, see, we still have to wear a mask even though we're vaccinated. Well, the feds are the ones that order the vaccines. And Pfizer's already saying that you need to have a third vaccination. So I don't know that anyone in the government's actually thought about thinking ahead and preparing for vaccines for the third round.
Lives that have been lost. In the UK, they've lost around 130,000 people. So we've done well to avoid the fate of other nations in terms of loss of life. In terms of the labour market, we're now seeing our unemployment rate, as I said, at 4.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Julianne. I'm expecting that we're going to have lockdown still. Hello, Darren. Probably they do want more money. I'm imagining it's going to be like the flu vaccine. You're going to have to get the booster every year. Last year we could have been making Pfizer. Well, thinking Liberals. I'm just telling him how to do his job. You need to be thinking about the booster shots. That is true, Rufus. Dear. Julianne's in the US. It is appalling that there's not enough vaccines. That is correct. They're scrambling. And now, because New South Wales, because Sydney's got, they're taking from the country areas to give to the cities. So the country people are missing out, which is also very disgusting. This is the man that's partly that the US is awash with vaccine, probably. There's supposed to be there was supposed to be Moderna coming in. Moderna's not due to hit until next year. So next year's going to be too late.
4.9%, the lowest in a decade, 160,000 more people in work today than before the pandemic began. That has been achieved ahead of any other advanced economy. But now we're into the next phase of the virus with a new variant and with the challenge of rolling out the vaccine as quickly as possible. Other countries have done it faster than us, but their circumstances have also been different. We're seeking now to get the vaccine.
Really? I would have thought that you would have wanted to protect what we had by getting out. Causes muscled. We are under 1,000 deaths for the duration so far. So Oh, wow. Does it cause muscle collapse? Oh, that's no good, Aquino. The government need to talk about other death rates beside COVID and do something about it. That's right. DV cases have gone up, and yes, suicide rates have gone up, and it's disgraceful. But they're only focused on COVID. That's all they care about. Last in the OECD, and that's embarrassing too. Shot 3 is in the works. Short says short order cook. Well, we should be already talking about shot 3. Yeah, New Zealand's aren't letting Australians in anymore. No, because next phase, let's do what we did last time.
Vaccine to as many people as possible, and with that vaccine, we can move to the next stage, which is living with the virus, and that's where the work of the Doherty Institute, which will be discussed at National Cabinet later in the week, is so important because it brings a scientific lens together with an economic lens to the right number.
Guess what the Doherty Institute was talking about that was ignored? The Victorian government paid attention to it. It was the Delta variant, which is why we locked down hard and fast twice.
Of vaccinations that we need to plot the path out of the
I know you say things were different, but given what's unfolded and how Delta just spreads like this, and we thought we were living large and living our best lives, and look at New South Wales now, we're not. Should we have always treated it as a race?
Yes.
Always, from day dot, because it was.
Yes. They've opened up universities. Well, it's interesting because my university have the universities here are all remote. Although mine, because I'm doing music and it's a practical unit, I've got 1 day at university, 2 days at home. So, hey, I reckon we pause. We give them the government an 80% pay cut. And see how quickly the vaccinations come out. If we've got the 80% pay cut to the politicians and put that money into the people that are locked down, you would find the problem would be solved. Josh could not lie straight in bed. He could not lie straight in bed. You're correct.
Well, to be fair, we did seek to get as many vaccines from as many different sources as possible. And as you know...
No, you didn't. You only got 2. You put all your eggs in the AstraZeneca basket because your liberal rich mates had investments in there. Let's be perfectly clear and honest with that. If you had got the best resources, we wouldn't have an option of 2. We would have had Moderna, we would have had Pfizer, we would have had AstraZeneca. We may have even had Johnson & Johnson. Oh, sorry, I'm getting really worked up here. State-run facilities have all, in where I live, all have to be done. They've just added heart inflammation as side effects. That's why AstraZeneca was better for the older people, because my dad, his doctor had said to him, even if he was younger, he would still be getting AstraZeneca. Getting worked up is valid. Oh dear. Let's talk about X now on ABC.
We were developing the manufacturing the AstraZeneca vaccine here in Australia by CSL under global license.
Yes, but you put all your eggs in the AstraZeneca basket, you idiot. Oops, sorry. I shouldn't. Oops. It's just like watching Parliament, because that's what I do when I watch Parliament. I'm yelling. You're right, Kim. Yeah. Well, there were another 2 people died today in New South Wales. I think, is it 7 or 8 that have died now in New South Wales in the last 4 or 5 weeks, and it's horrifying. It's sad.
Now, the advice from ATAGI was that the AstraZeneca vaccine should not have been made available to certain age cohorts. With the outbreak in New South Wales, that medical advice has...
Josh, ATAGI only changed their stuff now. That still doesn't account for the fact that you only put your eggs in the AstraZeneca basket and then didn't order enough Pfizer. Come on. Don't blame ATAGI for your mismanagement.
has changed. So we now have an alignment between the medical advice and the facts on the ground, with ATAGI strongly recommending, that people seek out the benefits of...
So it's ATAGI's fault now that you're incompetent. Okay.
The AstraZeneca vaccine, rather than waiting...
Only because the president's the ex-assistant chief health officer of Victoria. Well, that's right. They've been undermining ATAGI the whole time. Remember, ATAGI said no one under 60, and the Prime Minister says, Prime Minister goes, everybody should go get AstraZeneca. Follow the money. Well, the previous assistant health officer, they were offered 40 million doses last year and declined. The assistant chief health officer, Victoria, Dr. Chan, he is the chairman or chairperson of ATAGI. He was the one making all the recommendations. He's the one that put us into our severe lockdown last year. He's a infectious disease expert and was studying all of this. So who am I going to believe? Somebody, a medical doctor, or the Prime Minister? Tough one. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, they've had 13 deaths. See, 13 deaths since July 11. Yeah. See, that's horrible. That's horrible. How many how many have they got in ICU at the moment? They've got a lot. I know Victoria's got 3 in ICU, 1 on ventilator. But who pays his wages? Victoria was paying his wages at the time as the assistant show. Leaning towards the doctor's the fox? I think so. Even when I went to see my own GP, he said to me, I can't imagine how confused it is for everybody. He said, it's confusing for us. One day we're giving this advice, the next day we've got to give the next advice. Hello, Jenna. Who's over 50? I'm not. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, not all the deaths have been over 50. No, not all the deaths have been over 50. There was a 40-year-old, was it? Hello, Robin. There was a younger person, and there's the majority of people in ICU at the moment are under 40.
For alternatives. I think this poses a real opportunity for us to repair some of that brand damage to AstraZeneca that had occurred early on.
Oh, I thought he said, hang on. He said we've got to repair some of that brand damage. I thought he said brain damage. A 30-year-old lady died, 182 in hospital, 54 in ICU, 22. It's very confusing, Tracy. This is what the problem is. And now he's trying to talk about fixing the brand. I thought he said brain damage. I was going to say, too late for him.
In the eligible age groups, to take the AstraZeneca vaccine, of course, to take the Pfizer vaccine if they're eligible for that too.
And they should race to the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Well, actually, the recommendation is to speak to your doctor.
They should try to get it as soon as possible, and obviously seek the medical advice that is also recommended in individual circumstances.
He cannot spit it out.
Who is responsible for that brand damage?
Again, we can only take the medical advice.
So is it the medical advisors?
The medical experts? Well, they are wonderfully committed, professional, dedicated medical professionals who know a lot more than you or I do about the spread of the virus and indeed the efficacy.
Did she say it's their fault?
Of the vaccines. They were making their judgments based on the best advice and evidence available to them. And they looked at international experience and they provided that advice to us. Now that the situation on the ground has changed with this major outbreak in New South Wales, their advice has changed. We welcome that and we encourage as many people as possible to take the vaccines available.
Get vaccinated. Okay, Treasurer, we're running out of time. I know I went a bit over time. Thanks for talking to me.
And he's sorry, don't ever ask me for an interview again because I'm not going to talk to you. All right, so that is the Treasurer. Yep, it's the doctor's fault. The medical professional's fault. All right. So let's get on to something a little bit less, something that's going to calm me down a bit. We're going to hit to, there's been over 1,000 deaths already. Oh, wow, Kino. Let's go to something different. We're still sticking to, haven't seen Ralph say, so like and subscribe. Yeah, Ralph's around. We're still sticking with politics. Well, the other thing is there is so much new research coming out, and there was actually research out from Monash University just recently. I don't know whether anyone's read this. Unique, that's come out of Victoria, unique to Victoria, and talked about the effect of masks and how when Victoria went to full-time masks, the number of cases declined by 30%. So there's research coming out about the effectiveness of mask wearing. So research and everything changes all the time. So this is, so I put this down as, there he is. Yeah, see, there's Ralph. FJ interview. This is, so before we hit the Katie Joy stuff, because I know that that's what a lot of people want. And I'm sort of, also giving extra people more time to join, that want to join. Didn't want to go late tonight because I'm working tomorrow. UK did the same thing, yeah. Cool. All right. So this is an interview by Independent Australia, Friendlyjordies versus John Call Me Pork Barilaro. I just love the title. I hadn't noticed this before. You're very interested in this. Well, that's cool. Yeah, so the vaccine's very slow. Robin, Monash University did a study about the mask, looked at Victoria's outbreak last year, and it stated that once we went to mask wearing, it went down 30%. Cases went down 30%. So, cool. All right. So take a look at that photo. I love that photo. I've got to go to work and back home and order everything online if needed, yeah. Don't really want the KJ stuff? I bet you do. You have you heard what Tom Chrisley said today? You want the KJ stuff? Apparently her live was really boring and I missed it. She did it when I was out. So anyway, this is that annoys me too, the Fox, when people don't wear masks properly. It's Friendlyjordies versus John Call Me Pork Barilaro. You're not into the KJ stuff yourself, Physics Down Under? I know, but We're talking about somebody that looks like they've got a second lawsuit in 12 months for defamation. Anyway, so it says the repercussions of New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro's defamation lawsuit against Friendlyjordies are no laughing matter. So New South Wales Deputy Premier's John Barilaro's defamation case against YouTube comedian and political commentator Jordan Shanks Markovina, better known as Friendlyjordies, is no longer about an overpaid and overly sensitive politician suing someone for daring to criticise him. Though it is about that. It is also about that. You know what? If Katie Joy was covering this, she might be able to use some of this stuff in defence of her Todd Chrisley stuff. But I do find it interesting that all of the Todd Chrisley videos, so it's no longer Bruz, we call him Pork. I don't know what to call him. Hello from Wollongong again. Your show is fun. Thank you, Joseph. I try to make it fun. So it says it's not about the intrinsic democratic rights of members of media to freely criticise governments and politicians, though it is also about that. While Barilaro's defamation case against Friendlyjordies is also about these things, it may determine whether Australians are happy for their elected officials to use public funds in any way they choose for simple, self-serving purposes of getting re-elected. This is part of what it's about. Don't forget, we had Christian Porter sue for defamation. Didn't Dutton's got a defamation proceeding underway as well. They're two federal ministers. And then we've got Bruz that we know of. I'm sure that. So 3 politicians in Australia are suing because people didn't say nice things about them. I mean, don't forget, Porter's trying to stop the unredacted defence from the ABC getting out. And I hope that tomorrow Justice Jaggett tells him where to go stick it, and that we can actually look at it, because I want to know what's in there. So in an exclusive interview, Jordan Shakes Markovina told Independent Australia, "I love this case. It's a materialised meta joke. It's a multi-million-dollar argument, literally, over semantics. Nothing about any of the facts we've published, not even what Barilaro claims he's outraged by in the press, which is that I'm a very racist meanie pants." So he's outraged that Friendlyjordies are a racist meanie pants. While government Paul may have been around since the Sumerians and may not be particular to any one political party, due to its recent regularity, it has become a practice that is barely noteworthy, which is rather the point, because people purloining your funds want you to dismiss it is as part and parcel of politics beneath your notice. Indeed, the misappropriation of public funds to achieve political ends is already so out in the open and commonplace under coalition administrations, state and federal, that it is fast becoming normalised, even passé. During the sports rorts fiasco last year, one lucky stakeholder, Perth Applecross Tennis Club President Paul Miller, said, "It's only a rort if you're not in it." They put pig snouts on Bridget McKenzie and ScoMo. Oh dear. It doesn't get any more blatant than that, and at the time many were shocked with such an open and unashamed justification of what is ambiguously an example of the preferential subversion of public funds for the purposes of partisan political patronage, or in other words, corruption. Hey, there we got it. We got it in IA as corruption. Certainly few of us would have expected such alleged corrupt behaviour would soon become so normalised that it is now adopted as standard government policy. Just over a year after public outrage over the pork barrelling of sports grants saw then Sports Minister Bridget McKenzie stripped of her senior post, the Morrison government has happily reinstated this happy rorter back into cabinet. Nothing to see there. Sorry, not sorry. And not only is it all yesterday's news, but when a similar instance of misappropriation of funds and subsequent shredding of relevant documents was discovered in Prime Minister Scott Morrison's gold standard state of New South Wales, Liberal Premier Gladys Berejiklian just shrugged and defended the practice. Thus, it's not illegal. You make election commitments. You make commitments to particular areas. I mean, it would have been dishonest for me to say otherwise. You ban all commitments and then you'd argue why you need the government to make decisions. You would have the public service base everything on their decisions. I love my thoughts. Thank you, folks. In the particular instance, the Premier was defending a grant scheme in which over 95% of available funds went to coalition-held seats. And here, Friendlyjordies and Independent Australia, and possibly many of you, may have been thinking that democracy, the public service, is there to provide legitimate advice to governments on public expenditure policy for benefit of all people, not only those people that are likely to re-elect government of the day. But since the Deputy Premier from the same state, from the same trough of pork barrels, has sought to sue a comedian for daring to suggest otherwise, well, it's difficult to avoid the conclusion that we are clearly ill-informed. Everyone's talking about pork chops now, hey? We're talking about to assume our elected officials will at least pretend that they're trying to govern legitimately or feign shame when discovered to be doing the opposite now seems an overreaction, even a touch naive. And I think that's what's really upsetting a lot of people is that they don't even are sorry. They're not even sorry now. Look at Barnaby. He's back as the Deputy Prime Minister, you know? Justifying the shameless funneling of public monies into those electorates that serve his personal political ends, Barilaro said in May last year, well, my name is John Barilaro. Call me Pork Barilaro, and I have no apology because at the end of the day, I will stand up and fight for our communities. The problem is not that he is engaged in this practice, apparently, but that anyone might consider it dishonest. Indeed, Pork Barilaro is so proud of his own rorting, he's even happy to be called a swine. At least we assume this was a connotation which he intended and not the other obvious one. This is a great article. I used to make that for my family. Wow, you don't eat meat? Wow. The steepest pink of pork barrelling is not just acceptable then, it is the new black of the government practice, at least if those governments happy to be of the Liberal Party persuasion. At the pre-trial hearing for Barilaro's defamation lawsuit against Friendlyjordies, Barilaro's lawyers attempted to paint a picture of the Deputy Premier, the person happy to be known as Pork Barilaro, as someone who, although what he did may have been the wrong thing to do, he owned and was even proud of his wrongdoing. But just because it was the wrong right thing to do, and he was unrepentant, even pleased with his behaviour, it doesn't mean Barilaro's delicate sensibilities went so aggrieved that he felt compelled to seek justice against being ridiculed. Claims made by Friendlyjordies, including $78,000 given to the Monaro Panthers Football Club, where Barilaro was the president for 8 years and whose coach was a former business partner, or the $39 million road upgrade, which allegedly benefited one of his own properties, were rubbish, according to the Deputy Premier's lawyers. Interestingly enough, one of our people on our channel lives in Barilaro's electorate and has stated that they're getting a new high school, which happens to be around the corner from where the Barilaros live, and confirmed that the road did get upgraded. So yes, they're also getting a new high school built with government funds, and Yes, it's going to benefit his daughter, who will be attending the school. Defamation barrister Sue Chrysanthou SC said the claims were not capable of justifying the string of corrupt conman. In speaking to the Independent Australia, Jordan Shanks-Markovic seemed confident about his prospects in taking on Port Barilaro. Shanks told AIA that the defamation case is shaping up to be about a handful of words I can't even remember uttering. And if I couldn't remember saying them, do you think the average punter watching would remember that we called Barilaro a conman amidst the hundreds of minutes of videos we've produced pointing out his alleged cons? That's an interesting point. Shakes Markovina says this expensive and protracted legal dispute is about diverting attention away from the Deputy Premier's alleged wrongdoings. Let's be real. The only words Barilaro doesn't care about me saying are the ones he's bringing to court. He's bringing those words to court to try and silence all the words around those words. On top of these proceedings, Friendlyjordies producer and writer Christo Lanka was also arrested in June by the New South Wales Police Fixated Persons Unit, following a complaint from Barilaro and charged with 2 counts of stalk, intimidate, intent, fear, physical harm. The ramifications for journalists and satirists is if these criminal and defamation proceedings against Friendlyjordies succeed, may, however, be no laughing matter. And this is what I'm saying. But if John Barilaro wants to pursue this case, Shanks Markovina is happy to play ball. It's pure intimidation. Unfortunately for Barilaro, I'm not intimidated. I spent too much time in the naughty corner as a kid. I'm very happy to stare at a wall for the rest of my life with nothing but one of those bouncy balls that you get for $2 out the front of Woolies. So that's the interview with Friendlyjordies. So he's happy to play ball. All right. The other thing is, and I'm trying to get this article, but this is a lawyer document. But there's been complaints against Christian Porter's lawyers filed with the legal watchdog. Now, this is the lawyer, Sue Chrysanthou, is also Bruzz's lawyer. So what I've been able to work out is that the person that's the friend of Christian Porter's accuser, the person that went to court to stop Sue Chrysanthou from acting for him and won, she has put a complaint to the legal watchdog against her, Sue Chrysanthou, and the instructing solicitor in the Christian Porter case. As you can see, and I'm not a member, and I'm actually going to try my university's law library. But complaints against this could affect Bruz. This is the thing, because this is her lawyer too. What's Bruz going to do if he loses his lawyer? I don't know what any of the claims are. I don't know I don't know anything about it other than that story. All I know is that complaints against Christian Porter's lawyers, so Sue Chrysanthou and the instructing solicitor, have been filed with the legal watchdog. That's all I know. But Sue Chrysanthou is also Bruzz's lawyer. So there you go. As I said, I'm going to try and keep that going. And then this is an article. Hello, Will. So this is an article from The Conversation, because remember that defamation laws were changed under Christian Porter. And it says changes to defamation laws that came into effect this month in several states could provide some respite for political satire as a mode of political communication. So in recent years, the defamation lawsuit risk for Australian comedians have been real. The treatment of YouTube personality Jordan Shanks as his producer Krista Lanka is a case in point. And Friendlyjordies Shanks' popular YouTube channel and his mocking depicted New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro as Mario, the fictional video game character who wins races by cheating. Shanks' satirical stunts and commentary included content about alleged incompetence and corruption. In response, Lanka was arrested by no less than the Fixated Persons Unit, which is normally concerned with rooting out extremists and terrorists and subjecting them to psychological assessment. Furthermore, Shanks is now being sued by Barilaro for defamation. So, apparently they're saying the new defamation laws should. So the reformed defamation laws came into effect on July 1 in New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria and South Australia. They'll become nationally uniform by the end of the year. The reform laws now include a public interest defence and a serious harm provision, both of which promise room for manoeuvre for political satirists. So the new defamation rules may actually help Shanks. The changes mean more protection for satire highlighting matters of interest to the public. The only exceptions is that the representations can't make accusations without factual basis. And a new serious harm provision means that satirical insult does not automatically equate to reputational damage. Now, this will be tested in law remains to be seen, particularly as it relates to the implied right of freedom of political expression. These legal reforms may be a welcome relief, reducing some risks to satirists. But in terms of power relations, the defamation issue may still come down to who has the money to mount the defence. For grassroots and citizen satirists without the funds to access legal advice, this is still problematic. So whether or not anyone approves of Shanks' potentially racist depiction of Barilaro, the actions against him and his producer seem to be disproportionate and a far cry from the past. So if you remember back in 2004, a stunt in that resonated with the satirical series The Chasers Want Everything, a man named Patrick Coleman distributed pamphlets in Townsville with the words, "Go get to know your local corrupt type coppers." He was arrested and convicted of using insulting language in a public place. However, the High Court overturned the charge of insulting police, saying the police should have expected to resist the sting of insults directed at them. Indeed, tolerance for the more risque political satire stretches a long way back. You had the Big Gig comedy company. In the past, many politicians have even supported or engaged in satire themselves, such as Joan Kerner. So, then, of course, we had George Brandis threatening to, fight a serious warning shot at those who may dare to satirise government officials. But the new defamation laws look like they may actually work in Jordan's favour. So Christian Porter may have done something right. Anyway. I know, that was a lot. That took a long time. 1 hour 24. So, is everyone still with me? No one's got lost yet? Anyone bored? Or is this all exciting for you? You're here twice. Well, I hope you've liked the stream. I hope you've liked the stream twice. It's all right to be here twice. You'll like it twice. All right. You're loving it? Cool. All right. Now we're going to get to a topic that some people don't like, some people are going to like. We're an hour and a half in. Still here drinking, trying to get motivated. Cool. So we're going to get on to Katie Joy. Hey, Mama Duke. Because Katie Joy has got herself into some more... Looks like Katie Joy has got herself into a little bit more trouble. She's got to learn when to zip her lip. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. Well, that's why I try not to make. I don't like. I'm not a vulgar person. I'm more than likely to have. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even like having things slip out, and my internet's just playing up. So, I might sing that one tomorrow night on my stream, The Gambler. Oh dear. Well, Mr. Obvious, a lot of people. I actually started properly streaming during Katie Joy's last lawsuit, and yeah, she's been. Look, there's been no official documentation drop yet, but this is something Steve McRae wrote. And also, I'm going to show you some Reddit stuff because the Reddit stuff's funny. So it says, in his podcast today, Todd Chrisley made publicly that Katie Joy Paulson was officially served by him. Another defamation suit against her, I predict, will be served to her fairly soon as well. So I'm reading between the lines there, but I am thinking that some of the people she has accused falsely of doing things are going to be suing as well. I don't know that for sure. I'm reading between the lines. It's frozen with my tongue out. Nice one. Oh, it froze with my tongue out. That was nice. Yeah. That's right. I'm still here, I think.